Attachment, how attached are you to ideas and concepts? You've learned a lot of these as a child growing up, but as an adult, you have to ask yourself if they serve you. If they don't, then you need to let them go. Have you ever asked yourself, what if I could create a world based on completely different ideas, how would I want that world to look? We learned certain ideas because we were taught them, either through family, school, or television. This is called socialization. So you need to ask yourself, what if I've been socialized in a way that doesn't work in my favor? What if there's a better way to relate to myself and others? What if I have been socialized to not accept and to take issue with everything around me? For those from other planets, what if my alien consciousness interferes with my accepting life on Earth as it is? The solution there is simple but not necessarily easy. You applies alien principles as solutions to these problems. That way you're bringing light to this earth. For example, is it right that right now I'm sitting under a deck of chemtrails, which I saw them spraying last night? No, I will, however, meditate to rid my city of them and bring back the sun, hopefully later today. You bring this alien awareness with you, and by tapping into soul, you can learn how to use these higher energies to benefit yourself but also to benefit others as well. Don't forget benefiting others in your requests of God. God like selfless acts, not me-minded acts. These excerpts are from a joke circulating around social media. Nudity. I was driving with my 3 young children one warm summer evening when a woman in the convertible ahead of us stood up and waved. She was stark naked. As I was reeling from the shock, I heard my 5-year-old shout from the back seat, "Mom, that lady isn't wearing a seat belt." Why would you be shocked at seeing a nude woman? We all know that people are naked underneath their clothes. The fact is, this woman looks more or less like you, so what's the big deal at seeing nudity? The 5-year-old was right about a nude woman, he didn't think much of it. However, he's already been indoctrinated into wearing his seat belt, and that is a good thing. Why is nudity relegated to the bedroom and bathroom only? What's the big deal? More nudity. A little boy got lost at the YMCA and found himself in the women's locker room. When he was spotted, the room burst into shrieks, with ladies grabbing towels and running for cover. The little boy watched in amazement and then asked, "What's the matter? Haven't you ever seen a little boy before?" These women are either embarrassed at their bodies, so much so that they can't be seen by a stranger, or they're expecting the boy's father to show up, which wouldn't make sense. The boy's mother should come and get him. I wouldn't care if a boy showed up in the locker room. So what? I think if we all never wore clothes, we wouldn't care about what our bodies looked like. We wouldn't be self-conscious. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but it's something to consider. When I was about 8 or so, I couldn't see why the boys around me were allowed to walk around without shirts in the summer heat, but I had to wear a shirt because I was a girl. So my parents told me not to bother, and I walked outside without a shirt on. Everyone started razzing me, telling me to put my shirt on. There seemed to be something so wrong with my body that I had to cover it up. And there you go, where women get body complexes from. Women always pick on whatever they see as being wrong with themselves, and the body responds by giving them more of it. I've heard that eventually the soul intervenes for the body's sake and stops the body from responding to everything we think about it, because if it did respond, we'd be so sick or dead of our own hatred of ourselves. By the way, the other items in this list of jokes predominantly related to sex, alcohol and nudity. These are the things that Westerners find so funny and make jokes about constantly. The other things I see people laughing at is the perceived stupidity of others. Unless you can toe the line and be like everyone else, if you stand out in any way, you are flawed. If that isn't a giant step towards the hive mind of the New World Order, what is? One of the beliefs Ivo and I are working on is the concept of stealing. This started last year when I was growing a garden and my leeks were being stolen by the neighbors and no compensation was given or anything. Now for Ivo this must take a bit of doing. He understands our financial system well and how we're beholden to the system of enslavement, pretty good for an ET who has probably never lived in an economic culture. He does, however, understand free will and boundaries, but he also understands that getting riled up about something that is bound to happen anyway considering where I live, is futile. People all around me live in lesser economic circumstances, plus they don't know how to take care of themselves properly because they never learned, so they have strong inclinations of being dependent on others, and some just help themselves to whatever they want without asking. I realized that stealing was modeled for me when I was a teenager, and I was reacting as someone else had shown me was the way to react when someone steals. So I had to look at it. I also had to look at my reaction to having things stolen from me, and I realized it's because I feel I'm lacking, that I don't want things taken. I was attached to that idea. If I had more than enough for myself, I wouldn't care if someone helped themselves, as long as my needs are met first. That's alien thinking. If you think like that, it comes from your alien consciousness. What I see Earthlings doing is amassing more and more and more, and then never using a penny of it to share with others. I had heard of a popular TV personality who has been in movies as well, who had an $11 million home, and she would hold these big parties. What about the homeless? What about the needy? What about the people who need to be fed? I would buy a much smaller home and then use the rest of that money to help people in need. If I can't find a charity that isn't corrupt to help me, I'd start one, of course being careful that everything that's worth anything in our world is always infiltrated by the Illuminati. That's how they stay rich. If they can't infiltrate it, they'll draw up laws to bring you down and make what you're doing illegal. Are you hung up about nudity? Do you think there's something wrong with it? Do you think everything that's funny has to pertain to sex, nudity, and alcohol? Is that adult humor to you? Do you think it's not okay for women to go topless? In Ontario, even, it's law that we can, however nobody does it because of the reaction of others. That's unfortunate. Do you think you have to squirrel away loads of money while others go hungry? Or do you save up money and save away food, knowing that you will be giving some away to your neighbors? I do. That's what I'm doing now. I know if the shit hits the fan in November, that they will be unprepared for food and toiletry shortages. Even though I've said this to him a million times already, I sense he's not going to do anything about stocking, and so it'll be up to me to float his family through hard times. I'm preparing to do that because I figure it'll happen. If they were the neighbors of my parents, we wouldn't have to worry because the housewives then stocked up on specials, canned, and made sure everyone was provided for. We never went without as children, and we would have been prepared for a SHTF event. Now people aren't, because some don't seem to have much of a clue. Or they're crossing their fingers, or using their old friend denial to help them avoid feeling fearful. It's not going to help. Being prepared will alleviate fear. My ego could say, I'm not going to help them, because I warned him ahead of time, and because I'm right. I could be egotistical and stand on the point that I'm right, but of course, I'm not going to do that. I could say, I don't have much money so I won't share with you, or, if I share with you, then I'll have to share with everybody, but that's not true. I can only do what I can. There is a drunk who lives in the apartment behind me, and he won't have anything either. You'd have to know what a lifeline I look like in the neighborhoods I live in. I'm responsible, take care of myself as well as money permits, I can cook and can foods, and have everything I need to get by in a pinch. So to them I look like a lifeline and someone to take advantage of. I just have to accept that it's not right for them to not take proper care of themselves and expect me to do it for them, but the fact is, it's going to happen anyway. I can keep fighting for what is right, or I can accept and prepare for the inevitable. It's going to happen whether it's right or not. And I'll have to help them as much as I can. They have a freezer full of meat which doesn't appeal to me, and I'm sure he'll try to exchange as much as possible, but I know my neighbors and I also know what's coming. Do you think that cops are really there to serve and protect us? I watched all those 70s cop shows, where those superhuman teams of bell-bottomed side-burned post-hippie macho men raced hopped-up cars to catch bad guys. Do you think that's reality? Was it ever reality? What else was modeled for you when you were young that you still believe now? What concepts are you attached to that you need to let go of, the ones that don't serve you anymore? What reality do you have to come to grips with, even though your mind says it's not right? One that was big when I was younger was cigarette smoking. Everyone smoked. Except nice girls. They didn't smoke. And yes, there was such a thing. Fortunately, we've moved away from thinking cigarettes do something other than make us sick and kill us, except in the lower income brackets. I find a lot of my neighbors smoke. If they could give it up, they would have a lot more money, but that's up to them. How many people should do this or people shouldn't do this ideas do you have? Do you rat on people who aren't standing 3 feet away from others? Do you call the cops on people you see having parties without masks on? Why do you think that people have to comply to your idea of life and not their own? Because it's law. Wearing a mask isn't law in many areas. In areas that it is made mandatory, it's a law passed on false premises and exaggerated claims, otherwise called lies. So it shouldn't be legal. Understand that when you say people should be like this or shouldn't be like that, you are shooting on yourself as they call it, and that whatever rules you make up for others you make up for yourself as well. Cut yourself some slack. Don't fall off the wagon, but go easy on yourself a bit. How many things that others do that don't even affect you do you take issue with? Leave them be. Live and let live. How often do you say, I can't stand when people do this or that? Living in my neighborhood is a learning exercise. Living with alcoholics, drug addicts, smokers, misogynists, and those who struggle to make a living. I want to tell them all you have to do is change the way you think and take off the limits you place on yourself, and you can change your life. I'm doing it now, thank God. It's going slowly but probably as fast as I can tolerate. Also learn to accept that what you learned is right isn't always reality. Like my neighbors coming to me when the SHTF. It's not right that I should have to support their family, but I know they'll ask. The food bank will be overwhelmed at this time because nobody will have done their prep work either. That's why Ivo and I keep asking you to stock up, particularly if you live in North America. Stores may be full now, but when Trump keeps pointing fingers at China and taking back production of goods in the US, there will be shortages. I often get treated in ways I don't appreciate, but it's a question of setting boundaries where you need to and learning to accept where you can't. Life is a work in progress.